Right, man.
But
No, absolutely. And looking at the roster, they still have JGH. They also have, is it George? George?
yeah, they do have
George.
Judge. That guy's got the hardest tag and all these things to say. Uh, they do have too, and we haven't actually seen just yet. But they do have a few good Zerg players that they could send out, and they do have Jimmeh, like we said before,
Right.
who was their go-to player in the last series. And I wouldn't be surprised if we did see Jimmeh come out and we saw him on Antigua Shipyard.
Mhm.
So, I mean, two of the worst Protoss versus Terran maps are already out of the picture. Those maps being Ohana and Cloud Kingdom, at least as far as I'm concerned. I know that's an opinion, but they do still have Antigua Shipyard available to them. They may as well use it on a Terran in this matchup, see if they can snipe out Starnan. But either way, they just lost their ace player, so you know Rip Zeez is going to be feeling a little bit of pressure from all of this right now.
No, absolutely. And like you said, Antica's really good for Terran players. I know our basically our ace Terran player on Impulse Ender lives and dies by by Antigua Shipyard, man. That's like the only map he ever wants to play on. But it is pretty well balanced map. Or at least it's pretty Terran love it. That's what I'm trying to say. Terran do love that map.
I mean, the overall stats for that map are still pretty even across the board. I think Terran might have like a 3 or 4% advantage in Zerg versus Terran, and then in Terran versus Protoss, it's almost completely even. But it's really more of what it is about that map is it fits the way that Terrans like to play. That's
Right.
what it comes down to. I mean, just in the same way that Ohana fits the way that Protoss like to play, yet the stats on the map are perfectly like even across the board for professional play. It,
Hmm.
it just fits the way that Protoss likes to play in the late game. And Antigua Shipyard is that map for Terran also. So, I mean, the stats are still pretty even, but I mean, again, players develop their way that they like to play, and a bio-heavy player likes to play on Antigua, but we aren't going to see Antigua. Instead, we are going to be seeing Daybreak, and this tells me that Rip Zeez is actually going to be going for a Zerg, because Zergs love this map versus Protoss.
Absolutely, I love playing on. I play Zerg and I love playing on Daybreak. It's kind of my map, man. Pretty easy to take a third, fourth. Just so many expansions you could take. Different
Yeah.
attack avenues. Really easy to flank armies in this on this map and do Zergling run bys and stuff. So this map's definitely going to be nice
I
if
mean,
we do
Daybreak
indeed see a Zerg.
Daybreak is a perfect example of what I was just talking about earlier. The stats on the map are pretty much even across the board, yet for some reason Zergs love it a lot more than the other two races do. But it turns out that Ripsy is going to throw an absolute curveball at me because they're going to send out Jimmeh and they're going to put him on Daybreak. And
Right on.
that confuses me. But if they're confusing me, they might also be confusing Starnan, and that might also be what they're going for. So this could be the most brilliant decision I think I've ever seen out of Ripsies, or this could be a mistake because I mean Daybreak is, at least for me, it's not a map that Terrans typically like against Protoss players, but I mean. Obviously, Rip Zeez made this decision. They calculated it out. They talked about it, and we're going to be seeing a Terran versus Protoss on Daybreak. And you know, the last time we saw this was actually with Elijah versus help me out here, Joker. It was Elijah
I
versus
didn't I didn't see that. I just saw the replay. I
it
don't
was
remember
it
who
was
he was
Elijah
playing.
versus Inferno. It was Elijah versus Inferno DTG. I said the same thing then that I'm saying now. Terrans usually don't like this map against Daybreak, and Elijah totally proved me wrong. So will we see this from Jimmeh? Can he take down Starnan? If he doesn't, his team's going to be down in a 3-0 hole. But if he does, he's knocked out a really strong-looking Protoss player from Western Wolves. So this is going to be an absolutely critical game for Team Ripsies. Can they pull it off?
Yeah, this is going to be, one of, I think, this is like definitely the most critical point in this clan war right now. Being down three is such a deficit, so hard to come back for. He really needs to get a win here. Maybe take another guy after this. So it's up to Jimmeh right now, spawning at the top right as the Red Terran, trying to come out and take a win for Rip Zeez. We have Jimmeh.
And from Team Western Wolves, we have our Protoss player spawning in the blue. He has looked absolutely unbeatable in the last two games, despite a tremendous effort from his opponents. Can Jimmeh take him down, or will he put Western Wolves up 3-0? He is Western Wolves Starnan.
And Western Wolves is so tough right now. If they do an all kill here, they're really going to put a staple on the pace for the rest of the league, man. These are the season two champions. So they're coming out here strong. They really want to show that they have not slouched at all since season 2, and these guys, if not, have got better. So these guys are going to be pretty sick, and I'm excited to see a little bit different than a PvP, man. Daybreak, let's do it. Now, one thing I was thinking is some Terrans I've met do really like Daybreak, because once they get a 3rd command center, they take that 4th there and they planetary it up. They can get a nice defensive spot. Then they could take a little bit more of the side bases, but we'll see, man. We'll see what they decide to do. It's gonna be intense, and also, it's a little bit harder for Protoss to defend that natural with force fields unless they do it up by that ramp. But there's also 2 different avenues to attack from. So if he might go for an early stim attack or something like that, maybe he has something in planned. This might be Jimmy's map. We're about to see here shortly.
Definitely. I mean, if you are a player that likes late game TVP, and there are definitely a lot of players like that out there, Thorzane is definitely one of the more notable ones.
Yep.
This map is good because of what you just said. It is a little bit easier for Terran to take a defensive position in the middle with a planetary fortress, but this isn't one of those maps that necessarily is very rewarding for a drop play. There aren't that many, there isn't a lot of airspace that you can really sneak around with drop ships, which really makes a map like Antigua a little bit better for that sort of thing. So, I mean, a lot of Terrans for a very long time really relied on drop play in order to beat Protoss in the late game. It's only been relatively recently, thanks to maps like Daybreak and Ohana in large part, that we've really started to see Terrans really start to understand how to knock out Protoss in head-on engagements. We've seen a lot of, really heavy ghost usage. We've seen some, mixing in of siege tanks, not really a lot, but really it's been the advent of, very high ghost counts that's really started to change the way that a lot of Terrans have been approaching the Terran versus Protoss matchup in the late game.
Yeah, it's so crazy, man. Like you said, I was thinking of Thorzane when I was thinking of when you were talking about ghosts. And sometimes when I see Thorzane's late game army, I'm like, that army looks tiny. And I look at the Protoss army and it's massive. I'm like, what the hell's going on? I'm like, why is Thorzane maxed out and this army looks so tiny? But there's friggin' 15 ghosts in there, and then he fights the Protoss and he just wrecks him, no problem. I'm like, what the? It's just funny watching once they do those late game armies. Even Thorzane adds some Reapers into his armies sometimes, playing late game Protoss. But having so many ghosts in there really takes down looks like the bulk of their army, but it's just so powerful.
I mean, the beautiful thing about the really heavy ghost compositions is that if you can hit the EMPs, and you should be able to at least hit a few of them, with a huge ghost count upwards in the 20s sometimes. But before I even get into that, we do have a Zealot and a Stalker actually pressuring this fast expansion from Jimmeh. And Starnan, this is actually a really good move by Starnan. He is really going to delay that bunker. Will he get an SCV kill? He does get one, but that bunker is going to complete. It is going to allow Jimmeh to push back these units just a little bit, but I mean, he is putting on just a little bit of pressure, making Jimmeh feel a little uncomfortable right now.
Yeah, just didn't even lose a unit right there. Stopped mining time, killed a SCV. Did he even get a Marine in there? He might have. But now it looks like the Stalker's going to try to sneak up the ramp of Jimmeh. Jimmy's got a couple Marines at the top of the ramp. He's going to fend that Stalker off. But now just going up to his 3 racks, adding that tech lab, getting those crucial upgrades, and another bunker being placed directly behind the first bunker. Now, I don't understand the positioning of that. Do you know why he puts it directly behind instead of, adjacent to it?
I mean, I don't only see bunker positioning like this. If I had to guess, I would say no. I was about to say he's going to leave it empty and then use it as kind of like a fallback position from the first bunker. But the other thing that this does do is it does make it a lot harder for Protoss to kind of what they like to do is force field behind the bunker to prevent the SCV repair. If the bunker's directly behind it, that doesn't really do you very much good. So definitely an unusual bunker positioning from Jimmeh, but it definitely makes sense if you think about it a little bit.
Yeah, that's cool. That's perfect. Starnan still poking in and out. Does have his base up and running. Has a robo on the way. Just pumping out probes at the moment right now. We bring up the unit counting station. It's 35 probes to the 30 SCVs of Jimmeh. Just about, basically the same once you add on the mules from those dual orbitals. So these guys are neck and neck at the moment right now. We do have stim. Little bit less than halfway done for Jimmeh. We're going to see if he decides to do some sort of stim timing here. A lot of Terrans like to do that. They like to get their 2 medevac stim timing pushes out, just to pressure the Protoss. Usually it's a pretty weak point in the Protoss's tech. It's right before Colossus, and their army's a little bit weaker. But we'll see. We'll see what Starnan and Jimmeh are up to. Starnan just being so active with these Stalkers, making sure he sees everything that's coming down this ramp.
You know what he's
poking
also
in and
doing,
out.
Joker? You know what he's also
What?
doing is he's really making it very hard for Jimmeh to play greedy. A lot of Terrans really do like to take a very, very early third command center on this map. And
Hmm.
most Protoss players are totally fine letting them do that because Protoss likes to be the reactionary race in this matchup. But
Right.
Starnan is in Jimmy's face constantly. He's not letting him really macro up the way that Jimmeh may have wanted to going into this. And behind this, Starnan totally knows what to expect. He sees his opponent's army count. He knows it, like his opponent's army is very, very light on marauders or even tech units of any kind. So what does he do? He's throwing down a robotics facility. He without marauders to really tank any of the Colossus shots. Upgraded Colossus with these double forges are going to be absolutely devastating. Jimmy's going to need to either figure out a way to break Starnan's kit, like a little mini contain that he's got going here, or he's got to pull off something really aggressive if he wants to like kind of make Starnan feel as uncomfortable as he currently is feeling.
Yeah, and right now, I think you're absolutely right. Jimmeh is moving out with just Marines. He does have 2 medevacs en route. They might meet up with his army on the way, floating his factory out as well. But with just Marines, they're going to be pretty squishy compared to these Colossi. We do only have 1 colo out, so proper micro. Obviously, the Marines can take them out. It's going to be stim is completed, but it's just Marines. We don't have any Marauders to soak up some damage and stuff. So with good force fields from Starnan, he should be okay with this. We do have medevacs going, and Jimmy's looking to posture up here, right? Look at this placement from this observer here, Vindicare. Looks like Jimmeh wanted to do a little bit of a drop, maybe into the main, but this observer here is going to catch everything.
I mean, like I said, Joker, this map is not very easy to pull drop play off on. There's only so many angles you can come from, and that observer is parked right in one of the more popular like ways for you to come in with dropships. So this drop is definitely going to get denied, but good reaction from Jimmeh, recognizing that those stalkers were in fact there, and now he's going to start to wonder, well, how did you know I was going to do that? He might start to look around a little bit, might see that blur just a little bit, scan, will be able to kill it, but no, he doesn't actually see that the observer is there. Now, the presence of so many Marines out on the map and so few Marauders really does tell me that Jimmeh didn't want to play this way. He wanted to go for that earlier third command center and try and out macro his opponent in the late game, but look at what Starnan's done. He's totally forced himself into a better position with a better army composition, and now Jimmy's struggling to catch up. He's only now really starting combat shields, Viking production. He's only now starting to mix in Marauders. His unit composition is not really one that can really compete with the one that Starnan currently has out on the field.
No, you're definitely right here. Oh, and one little mistake, he actually did not get. Oh, he just did drop that army right before that factory died. Sometimes that's a pain in the ass when you don't get another factory up, and then you have to remake it to get that armory. But yeah, Starnan has absolutely perfect map presence. He knows exactly when Jimmy's going to be trying to take that third because he had that pylon there. We do have a few Vikings out on the map for Jimmeh, but Starnan just looking so good this series, man. The guy has not done anything wrong, I don't think. He is so tough, man, and his army composition right now looks quite in favor of this Terran composition. But we do have dual starports pumping out Vikings at the moment, so we'll see, man. We'll see. It's going to come down to a lot of positioning, micro, and all that. Do we have ghosts on the way yet? No ghosts in production. We do have another CC. Actually, that's just his third CC, whereas Starnan's a little bit ahead on his third Nexus too.
I mean, look at what Starnan has managed to do here. I mean, again, guys, I might be wrong. Jimmeh might have not really wanted to take an early third, but everything about the way that he's played so far tells me that that's the way that he wanted to play. And look at what Starnan's managed to do. He, through all that pressure and everything else that he's managed to do, he's got his Nexus down first, and he has a really strong defense army composition that it is going to be so difficult for Jimmeh to actually attack into. Now, the one advantage Jimmeh does have going for him is the supply count. He's at 162 to 135 of Starnan, but Starnan's been sitting on double forge for a while now. He is just now getting up his Templar archives. As this game goes longer, he's going to have a better position. We do also have a drop up here at the main base of Jimmeh that I missed a little bit. These Zealots did look like they were able to get quite a few SCV kills. How many were they actually able to get? Whoa, that is up to 10 SCV kills. So really nice drop from Starnan. Just again, making his opponent feel so uncomfortable. And behind this, he's getting up all the necessary upgrades he needs to roll over this army in the late game.
At the same time, he dropped a few zealots down here at the third position, just dancing this army of Jimmy's around, trying to pick up a few more SCV skills, so just hurting his economy in just tiny ways. And this is kind of like how he played that PvP. He's just keeping the Terran back in his base, or he's keeping his opponent back in his base, picking off units here and there, just getting a little bit of edge here and there, and that's what's making Starnan such a strong player right now. Until he gets that perfect composition that he wants, perfect amount of bases and probes, he's just playing so well. And here comes Jimmeh. He's going to put that command center there at that fourth position. This is a little bit what I'm talking about. He might be trying to posture that up to make a planetary fortress, but Starnan is knocking on the front door, going to knock down these destructible rocks here, making it a quick access into this position. And it looks like Jimmeh did cancel that.
I mean, you're totally right, Joker, when you said he was playing it like this PvP. He's playing it exactly like his PvP. He's gambling in a few different ways, but he's doing so and he's covering his butt basically with the other ways that he's playing that are really making it so that Jimmeh doesn't feel comfortable attacking, even though he has a very narrow window where he could win with a strong timing attack. And now look at the situation for Jimmeh. In upgrades, his opponent has Storm out. Jimmeh doesn't have Ghosts available yet. He does have the Ghost Academy, but he isn't actually making any of them just yet. So Starnan's going to be able to get up to that perfect Protoss unit composition first with superior upgrades. It's going to be a tough spot for Jimmeh to actually engage into.
Oh god, and a few High Templar are going to be caught out of position here. Jimmeh, really good job noticing that, stemmed his army as soon as he saw that, and got 4 High Templars for just a handful of Marines and Martyrs, which is a great trade, and I will take that trade any by Jimmeh being able to pick those off. He just saw that opportunity, just stemmed as quickly as he could and got over there. Great scan by him.
That is the first series. It did cost him 4 High Templar, which could play a factor if he was interested in attacking, but because of the way that he's been playing so far, Jimmeh doesn't want to leave his side of the map. He doesn't feel comfortable attacking into that strong defensive position that Starnan set up for himself. So even though Starnan did lose 4 High Templar, Jimmeh can't really capitalize on that just yet. And now look at the supply. Jimmeh was ahead in supply this entire game, and now Starnan has finally come back. He's at 184 supply to the 186 now.
Oh my god, and Starnan actually worked in some units right here and caught some ghosts. He caught 3 ghosts that just popped out. That is crucial. Jimmeh really needs those. And now we have some zealots coming in, and in the front we also have Starnan's army posturing up to take out, landing some storms on these Vikings. These Vikings going to take some shots at these Colos right now. But really good multitasking right now from Starnan. These zealots are still wreaking havoc up in the main.
The drop matchup is actually working in Starnan's favor. We have another warpin of Zealots and a Dark Templar mixed in. A single Dark Templar. I love single Dark Templars because they are the ones that you hardly ever notice until it is too late. We have these units going into the third base now of Jimmeh, and now Jimmeh is being scattered all over the place. Starnan is taxing him so heavily in the multitasking department, and now Starnan's going to be up to 3-3. He's getting Blink already. He's on 4 bases. He's looking so strong right now, and now his army is moving into the 4th base of Jimmeh. While Jimmeh's army is out of position, he's going to be able to do a lot of damage to this 4th base, but instead he's actually just going to back up a little bit, but he's going to get up.
Templar sitting out front, and the Terran army is quite balled up. Now Starnan is up to 31 SCV kills at the moment to the 1 probe kill from Jimmeh. So, you know, this harass that, like you said, look at it, it's causing Jimmeh to lift his 3rd, killed almost every probe there. I mean, every SCV there, and really, Jimmeh's basically mining out of 1 base, that planetary in the middle, and it's getting pressured by Starnan. Starnan is comfortably sitting on his bases right now.
You know what, Joker? I've said this before, and I'm going to say it right now because it's applicable. You know what the most overpowered unit in the Protoss arsenal is? The Observer. Because if Jimmeh had Observers right now, he would not be losing this much to these Warp Prisms or these Proxy Pylons. And, you know, Starnan is abusing him that way. Like, Jimmeh just doesn't see what Starnan, like, where Starnan is on the map, and Starnan is totally outplaying him in that regard. And now look at the supply.
Accumulated an army in the main of Jimmeh's just from Warp Prism drops and run-bys. Also with the 3rd, there's no mining. We have 2 DTs taken out. And now in the middle of the map, Starnan is posturing up to take this army out. Jimmeh is kind of caught, eating a storm right there, and the Vikings are going to come in, eating quite another storm, and going right back into it. His army is so balled up. All these storms are doing absolutely so much damage right now. Starnan's control is impeccable.
Yeah, Jimmeh really wishes he had those ghosts in this army right now because those storms ate his army up, and now all those marauders are down in the red health. A good pickup for him. He does save the last few of them, but he GG's anyway, knowing how good of a position Starnan was in. And oh my God, Starnan! Can this guy be? Can this guy be stopped? Somebody stop Starnan.
Dude, it's like every time I watch Western Wolves play, one of their players is like just on fire, and I'm like, dude, this guy's the best. I'm like, I saw Sort of play. I'm like, dude, this guy cannot be stopped. Then I saw Zicto play, and I'm like, dude, who can stop fucking Zicto, man? This guy's off his chain. And now Starnan, it's like, dude, their team is so deep, man. This is just one of their players. This is just one, and quite possibly not even their best in terms of stats for like playing pro players and in pro tournaments and stuff. And this guy is absolutely just running a clinic right now.
Joker. Joker, I know you're also a basketball guy, so you can appreciate this. You look at Western Wolves and you're like, well, they only have 5 players on their active roster. How can they be a good team? Well, yeah. But their starting 5 is like the Lakers' starting 5 for this season. Like, it doesn't even matter who they have on their bench. Look at that starting 5. How do you deal with that? And that's kind of what it is right now. Starnan is just coming out and putting on a clinic, really showing just how who Western Wolves is to these teams that if they haven't heard of them. Well, now the rest of the teams in this league, they really need to take an eye out on Western Wolves, really take them seriously, because look at what Starnan is doing. It isn't just that he's winning. I mean, I've seen all kills before, but this, in all of these games, Starnan has just looked untouchable. He's so strong. His mechanics are good. His decision-making is good. His multitasking is amazing, especially for a Protoss player. You think of multitasking, it's normally something you think of more of like high-end Terran players, but no, Starnan is just, he really, really utilizes multitasking opportunities. Zealot run-bys, warp prisms, all sorts of different things. He is just such a beautiful player to watch.
He was all over the map, man. He was all over the map. Pylons everywhere, like you said. Warp prisms, drop it in. Just eat, like you said, the single DT is tough to find, man. When you got a group of DTs, it's a big blur running across, but a single DT running in the back of like 5 zealots and stuff, it's like, God dang, he was everywhere. But
the other thing is too, and I've said this before on my solo stream once, I got a couple laughs for it. The easiest way to spot a DT is not with your eyes, but with your ears. The shh sound.
Oh, yeah.
You know that one?
Oh, yeah.
You know how hard it is to pick out that sound when all you hear is the shh of zealots? So it's like the
that is true.
And you're listening for the one scythe one, and you can't find it because the zealots are making all this noise. So you have to find the blur of the Dark Templar in the army somewhere, in order for you to actually spot him, when normally you could just use your ears to listen for the Dark Templar swipe.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he's running a clinic, man. Does Zeez have anyone to stop him? Currently, Western Wolves up 3-1, going into their 8th match here.
I'm not even going to get on Zeez about this. Does anybody in the ISTL have anybody that can stop?
No, yeah. I mean, Zeez is a tough team, man.
Oh my gosh,
Zeez is tough, because if you looked at our brackets to get into the ISTL, it was pretty grueling, man. Zeez had to beat a lot of good teams, and I was like, holy hell, these guys crushed some solid competition. So I'm like, these guys are going to be tough. And right now, Western Wolves, though, I mean, they're on another level. They're just off the chain. So is Zeez going to be able to pull this out? Are they going to be able to do a reverse all kill here? They're going to need it, because 3-0, Western Wolves is in the lead going into their ace match. Who are they going to bring out, man?